This week, the HPT returns to the land of enchantment to the Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 2 days of poker have now brought us to one of the most anticipated final tables in recent memory. Of the 9 players who navigated this incredibly challenging field, 4 of them are making their second HPT final table, and one of them is a past HPT champion making his third final table and looking to reclaim the coveted title of HPT champion. Pop the popcorn and get cozy. This one's an instant classic.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack on cry to your mama, cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello and welcome again to the HPT. I'm Fred Bevel. This beautiful lady is Maria Ho, and we are getting our kicks on Route 66 here at the Route 66 Casino Hotel in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And let me tell you, this final table is one you don't want to miss. An amazing group of players have battled their way to the final 9, and I'm anticipating quite a show. 4 of the final 9 have played under the bright lights of our TV final table before, and among them is accomplished pro Alan Chainsaw Kessler. Chainsaw took 9th place in Iowa earlier this season, and normally I give the pro player the edge at a final table, but this time it's a little different.
The pro would normally have the edge because of experience in high-pressure situations, short-handed play, and end-game strategy. But this week, half of this final table has that kind of experience. Craig Casino is one of them. Craig won in Colorado, and until Greg Raymer went on his historical run of winning 4 championships in one season, Craig Casino enjoyed the distinction of being the all-time money leader on the HPT.
Cruz Baca took 3rd at HPT season opener with card player Cruises, and John Mahalik took 7th in Indiana. But you know what? There are 5 other players starting this final table, and they don't care about any of this stuff. With an HPT title on the line, everyone is going to be gunning for each other.
A lot of high-flying drama and action awaits. Let's check to see what's on the line, and everybody's starting chip counts and get right to the action.
Top prize this week is a little over 39 grand, and even if you finish in 9th place, you're guaranteed $4,641.
Not a bad payday for the final 9 that have navigated this competitive field. Here's what everybody is starting with this week.
Indeed, there are a lot of familiar faces at this final table, but it's someone that we haven't seen quite as much on the HPT tour, Norman Michalik, who's coming in today as the chip leader with 621,000 in chips. And HPT regular John Mahalik is our short stack with just 13 big blinds.
John Mahalik, one of the familiar faces that we've seen at a final table before. Not to confuse everybody, Norman Michalik, John Mahalik, just a letter separates the spelling of their last name, but these folks just met each other today, and I suspect they'll tangle horns here. Action in this hand, we pick up with Cruz Baca. Took 3rd place with card player Cruises at our season 9 launch earlier this season.
I feel like Cruz is wearing a similar shirt at his last final table. Maybe that's his thing.
He's a man of leisure. From Cruz, we go to Norman. He folds over to Craig Casino. Very familiar face, making his 3rd final table. He folds. And that is Chris Wagner. He's going to lay it down. Over to Thomas. Thomas with Queen 6 offsuit. He's going to lay it down. Over to John. Last time we saw John was at our Indiana event. He took 7th place. He's going to get away. This is Roger Martin making his 2nd cash on the HPT. Took 42nd at our Colorado event that draws close to 800 players when we visit that casino.
And Roger looks down at ace-5 from the big blind, and he's going to go ahead and call.
Heads up, going to our first flop of the night.
Let's go ahead and see the flop, please.
And the flop is 7, Queen, 5, couple of spades there. Rogers hit a little piece of it with bottom pair. Cruz has completely whiffed this flop.
Roger is going to lead out. Makes it 12,000 to go. Cruz Baca, no pair, no draw, no matter. He is going to raise it. Makes it 37 to go, 25,000 for Roger to call with bottom pair.
And that's why when you lead out into the pre-flop raiser, you always have to be careful that they're not going to believe you very often, so you can almost always expect that they're going to at least call, or in this case, raise and put you in a tough spot.
Roger does make the call with bottom pair, and the turn brings a 7 of hearts. So now Roger has 2 pair, Cruz just king high.
And Roger is undeterred here. He's going to go ahead and bet into Cruz again. And now I think it's a little bit more difficult for Cruz to represent a hand unless he's willing to raise again.
He does. He min raises to 50,000, and Roger makes the call.
Roger is undeterred, leading out into Cruz again on the turn. And I think that there's a huge problem with sizing. I think Cruz is sizing his raise both on the flop and the turn a little too small. He's not really going to get Roger to fold after Roger's bet twice into him. And I think that if he was willing to put in a little more chips, I think that would give Roger some pause. Cruz is going to have to make at least a 3/4 pot size bet here on the river in order to make this bluff work, and 40,000 is really not going to do it. Or it is. Wow.
Amazing. Cruz Baca just kept raising every street, fires a mini little bet on the river, and that's enough to get Roger to lay down the best hand.
I mean, I'm shocked that Roger didn't call. He only has to be right 1 in a little over 5 times in order to make that call correct after he put in so much money. So that was very interesting to me.
Action starts with Norman.
Action continuing on. This is Norman Michalik, and he is going to open the pot for 12,000. Craig Casino folds. We are over to Chris Wagner. He's going to lay it down. This is Thomas Montoya from Albuquerque, New Mexico, a local player. His first HPT event.
He's going to go ahead and fold that weak ace to Norm's under the gun open.
John is going to fold. Back to Roger. 3 deuce offsuit. Nah. The chainsaw, Alan Kessler folds. And this is Charles Vargas.
He looks down at the king 10 of diamonds from the small blind. I think he's thinking about calling the raise here.
Charles owns a barbershop from nearby Gallup, New Mexico, playing in his first HPT event. He is going to call the raise from Norm.
Cruz has 5-3, and if memory serves me correctly, I feel like Cruz is a defender.
Cruz does not like folding his big blind. He's going to make the call. Any 2 cards can win, Maria. Read a book.
Some people say that, but those people leak a lot of chips in that process.
The flop is Jack 9-9 Rainbow.
And Norm's flopped top pair here with his Queen Jack.
Both players check over to Norm. He is getting some betting chips ready and tosses them in the middle. They total 18,000.
Charles has a gut shot straight draw and backdoor flush possibility, so he's going to come along. Cruz is going to fold.
Oh, Norm was able to shed one of the 2 opponents on his flop bet. The turn brings a queen of clubs.
And that is the gin card that Charles was looking for, and now Norm has improved his hand to not jacks and nines, but queens and jacks, so we can expect to see him bet again.
Norm is going to fire 28,000.
And I think Charles is mulling over his options.
I'm all in.
And he's going to decide to just go all in here and now. And I don't really expect Norman to fold. It's only 62,000 more for him to call.
28,000, and ultimately we're going to find out how much more it will be to call.
Although I don't see Charles going all in with a hand that Norm can beat, but you never know what these players are thinking.
Call has been announced.
Norm does make the call, and he's going to see the bad news that he's against a straight here, so Norm is going to hope to find a queen, a jack, or a 9 to give him a full house.
Deuce.
The river is the 10 of spades, and Charles Vargas is going to double up with the king high straight. It's a fine way to start the final table.
Yeah, Charles was the second to shortest stack coming into this final table, so he is going to have a lot more chips to play with. More action from Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico when we come back.
And welcome back to the HPT here in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Route 66 Casino Hotel. It's time to get back to final table action.
Thank you, James. And here's a look at the updated chip counts Norman is still holding on to the top spot with just over 500,000. Cruz Baca is right on his heels with 472,000, and John Mahalik is still our short stack with 15 big blinds to work with.
I've seen John take a short stack to a big stack before at our event in Indiana. Blinds continuing on here at 3 and 6,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. Action will start on Mr. Vargas with pocket kings.
Huge hand here under the gun.
He is going to open here for a little more than 17,000.
17,500. Raise to 17,500 by Chuckle. Over to Cruz.
Cruz is going to fold, and here we go again. It's ace king, this time in the hand of Norman.
And I expect Norman, being young, the aggressive type, he's probably going to put in a 3-bet.
17,500 by Charles.
He chooses to just call.
It's definitely a little bit of a surprise for me. I feel like some of the poker players in the younger generation like to get a little bit more aggressive with ace-king, but I actually really like this call here.
And Chris Wagner's going to fold over to Thomas Montoya. Deuce 5, not very good. Into the muck, there it goes, into the muck. John Mahalik, a concert promoter. He folds, and oh my, look at this.
It's amazing how somebody could have kings and somebody could have ace-king and then someone has aces. It's really just a big cooler that's about to go down, and I think Norm's actually going to get away from this hand pretty cheaply.
Roger makes the expected all-in move. Alan Kessler gets out of the way.
And now we're back.
And if you're Charles Vargas, how in the world do you fold kings here, especially to Roger? We just saw him check call his way to a win with ace-king.
You can't and you shouldn't, and maybe he was tanking because he wanted Norm to come in behind him. I can't even imagine him thinking about a fold there.
He does make the expected call. Now action back to Norm. Ace-king shrinks up real quick when you have an all-in and a call in front of you.
And Norman folds. So the call's been made. So we flip the cards over, and here's the tail of the table.
And that's the reaction of a man who just saw himself run kings into the aces.
And little does he know he needs a king, but there's only one king left in the deck.
Charles Vargas hoping to get lucky and catch the case king on this board. Here comes the flop.
Bad call.
Kings for Charles.
Yeah, please. King B.
The flop is, wow, king 8-10. It is a one-outer that he hit to pull ahead of Roger, and now Roger himself is going to need a one-outer, as we saw Norm also had an ace in his hand.
Norm folded ace-king. We saw the case-king come. Roger's going to need the case-ace now.
Hold him.
No way!
God, this is insanity. This is poker made for TV, folks. You are seeing this right before your very eyes, this change of fate, one card to another.
And nothing for Charles to do but just laugh it off and congratulate Roger. The insignificant river is a 9 of spades. What a hand this is. Charles is going to go home with maybe the most glorious bad beat story ever as he leaves us in 9th place.
Sick hand, man. I could have laid it down, kings pre-flop, but I'm going for first. I ain't here for 7-6, trying to make my money up to. I want the title. I was here for the title. I'll take 9th. 9th is second to me. You know what I mean? I want it first.
Thank you very much, Charles. Your 9th place finish adds a little bit to the 88,000 in career winnings you have so far. Hope to see you again, my friend. Action this hand starts with Chris Wagner in the 1 seat. He's going to fold over to Thomas Montoya. Ace-7 is his holding.
He's going to play a little tight from early position and fold.
John Mahalik folds. Roger Martin, who, safe to say, he's on a heater. He's going to lay it down. Kessler folds. Ace-Jack for Mr. Cruz Baca. Took 3rd place in our season opening event with card player cruises. Talk about a good week for Cruz. He sailed the Caribbean with card player cruises and took 3rd at a final table.
Yeah, you can't really beat that, can you?
Check out hbtpoker.com. We'll be going back to card player cruises to kick off season 10.
And I'll be there.
Yeah, you will. That's worth the price of admission right there.
Cruz raises it up to 25K with ace-jack of hearts.
Action on Craig Casino, making his third final table in HPT history. Makes the call with Jack 10. You know, Craig Casino is his last name. His wife's maiden name is Slot, and they live in Winfield, Illinois. You can't make this up.
And they lived happily ever after. The flop is 6 of hearts, 3 of clubs, 9 of spades. Nothing for neither player, but Cruz has the betting lead and the best hand.
And he is gonna fire, makes it 35,000. And I know Craig Casino well enough to know that that's not gonna get rid of him.
I've played with Craig myself on an HBT stop last year, and he is stubborn and he will put you to the test.
He raises it up. Now it's 45,000 for Cruz to see a turn.
And you know, I remember Cruz, he's pretty stubborn himself, so this should be an interesting battle.
Both these players hate folding. Both these players will 3 and 4 bet you. The turn is an 8 of hearts.
8 of hearts.
Now Cruz must be liking that card. He thinks in case he was behind, now he has the nut flush draw to go with it.
Craig turns an open-ended straight draw, and he's going to semi-bluff all in. Maria, your thought?
I really like this bet from Craig because if Cruz didn't turn anything, he would have just easily folded, but he turned a pretty big draw with the nut flush draw here, and for just 198,000, it looks like Cruz is going to go ahead and call.
Well, Craig Casino kind of backed into a corner here. He's going to need to hit one of the outs to give him a straight, but it can't be a heart or it's going to give Cruz the flush.
He also has a 10, a non-heart 10 for an out.
Craig Casino hoping to catch lightning, and he does! A queen on the river is one of the cards he needed for the straight.
That's a very sick river card. Cruz was already ahead with the ace high, and he just needed to fade.
Well, Maria, the saying goes in poker, you got to get a little lucky along the journey to take down the title. I think Craig is satisfied with that requirement.
Me too.
Right out of the gates, this final table is turning into a classic. More poker when we come back. Welcome back to the HPT here at Route 66 Casino Hotel in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The saying goes, get your kicks on Route 66. Well, I'm getting my kicks watching this final table. Let's take a look at the updated chip count.
We have a new chip leader. Roger Martin has overtaken the chip lead with just over 600,000. Norman still looking good in the second spot. John Mahalik is continuing to trend down as he started out the short stack and hasn't been able to get much going. We'll see what happens here.
Blinds are moving up 4 and 8,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. Action starts with Norm. He folds over to Craig Casino now. King 9 in the muck. This is Chris Wagner. Boy, Ace King making a lot of appearances tonight. Third time we've seen it.
Chris is going to raise with Ace King off here. Thomas right behind him. Looks like he's cutting out some chips.
Them's raising chips. He is all in.
He went all in behind Chris's open with ace 5 of clubs. I've got to say that is pretty loose. I don't really like 3-bet shoving all in against an open with just ace 5. I know it's suited, guys, but it's really not that great of a hand.
Cruz Baca with 4-6 offsuit is asking for a count.
All in raised total here.
He's going to get Thomas's count of his all-in, but he should also pay a little attention to Chris Wagner's stack, because Chris could re-raise to isolate here.
Cruz wisely folds. And obviously Chris is going to call, and Thomas is going to see that he is dominated.
Flips over the big slick ace.
Thomas is going to have to get extremely lucky, have some clubs come on this flop, or find a 5 somewhere in the deck.
I think my go-to strategy with a short stack is to be the first person to be all in instead of 3-betting when you have no fold equity and then having to show up with ace 5 here. It just doesn't work out usually.
On to the flop we go. It is deuce, deuce, queen, rainbow.
Well, that's not a horrible flop for Thomas. He has some chop outs now. He could chop with a queen, or he could still hit a 5 and pull ahead.
The turn delivers an 8 of spades. No help to either player here.
Ace King is still ahead, though.
So a queen or an 8 to chop, or a 5 for the win. That's what Thomas is hoping for. Chris hoping he sees none of this.
And the river is a 5, and wow, what a river for Thomas. He is going to win this pot and double up.
Amazing, amazing. We've had 3 or 4 all-ins, only 1 elimination, but several crazy rivers and turns. And just like that, Thomas Montoya goes from out the door to double up. Blinds are at 4,000, 8,000 with a 1K. Crowd a little restless after seeing all these miracle cards coming on the board to save the short stack. Craig Casino is first to act here.
He has King Queen off, and he's going to go ahead and raise it to 20,000.
Attaboy, Craig. That's what you do with King Queen.
Oh, wow. 2 people have your favorite hands at this table. Fred, it's like you willed this hand to happen.
Well, Thomas Montoya, fresh off the double up, facing a raise with King Queen. And he's going to fold over to John Mahalik. Ace Queen for John, and here we go. All you can eat.
He's on the short stack, so this is definitely a hand you go with.
Roger Martin's turn now. Deuce Jack. Probably not worthy of playing with all this action. Oh my goodness, he reached for chips. I thought maybe he was. Kessler quickly folds over to Cruz Baca now.
Cruz looks down at 9-6. He's going to fold.
Now to Norman. He lays it down.
Craig's going to ask for a count here, but after he gets it, I'm sure he's going to call.
And John is one of the short stacks, but Craig would be in a bad way here.
93 is very close.
93.
I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, Fred, but look at what happens when you play King Queen. You just get dominated.
Hand's not over yet, my friend.
You're right, there's 1 queen dead, so it's a little bit worse than you think it is.
Craig does make the call, and he is going to find out he is in a bad way. We know that 1 king has been folded, so he's only drawn to 2 outs.
Let's see if the best hand can hold up all the way through just once at this final table, huh?
King, queen, king of hearts, queen of
Craig Casino hoping to get lucky twice. Here comes the flop.
The flop is 6-5-8 rainbow. The ace queen is still ahead for now. We have seen a lot happen on the turn and the river.
7.
Let's go ahead and see the turn card, please. Turn card.
The turn brings an ace of spades, and that's going to do it. John Mahalik is going to double up.
Let's go ahead and see the river card, please. River card, queen of hearts.
Nice hand. Thank you.
So John Mahalik is going to get 206,000 chips once everything's reconciled. And Craig Casino, well, he's just going to have to lick his wounds and hope that the cards catch him next time.
It's been great music all week here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Awesome food and some of the best poker we've seen in a while. More final table action right after these quick messages. You're watching the HPT. And welcome back to the HPT here in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico and the Route 66 Casino Hotel. We've had fun all weekend long, and let's go ahead and wrap things up into our final table action.
Thank you, James. And here are the latest chip counts. Roger Martin is still in the lead with 583,000. With John's recent double up, it's still not enough as he's the second shortest stack, but Thomas is below him with 22 big blinds. They're both going to need to do some work here.
Blinds are at 4,000, 8,000 with a 1K. And Chris Wagner is going to open this pot to 18,000 with Ace Jack. Thomas Montoya with the Doyle Brunson goes into the muck. Here's John. Quickly folds over to Roger now. Not a whole lot to celebrate. Over to the chainsaw. He's going to fold.
Allen folds.
Now over to Cruz. Jack Deuce into the muck. Rags around the table so far. Here's a hand. Norm wakes up with ace queen suited.
And he's in the small blind here, and he could just call, but it looks like he is putting out chips for a 3-bet, and he does re-raise it to 42,000.
42.
Now over to Craig Casino. He's going to fold. And back to the original raiser, Chris Wagner. It's 24,000 for him to see a flop.
He's going to go ahead and call with ace jack in position. Norman looks completely uninterested in this hand all of a sudden.
It's called a poker face. Here comes the flop. It is 4 deuce ace, all diamonds.
4, 2, ace. All diamonds. We start.
Norman's flop top pair with a queen kicker, but he doesn't have a diamond in his hand, so he might proceed with caution here. He's going to go ahead and lead out for 41,000.
Over to Chris now, who's also flopped top pair with a worse kicker with the jack. Also not holding a diamond. You think these diamonds are going to slow down the action with these players? Never mind.
It should have, it might have, but no, I guess Chris thinks he has the best hand here, and he just doesn't want to see another card come off in case Norm has a diamond.
Well, Norm is going to make the call without a diamond, and it's his tournament life that is on the line right now. But he is way ahead.
Norm's just not going to want to see a jack on the turn here in order to stay ahead and double up.
Either player has a diamond in their hand.
Big swing hand here developing. Unless Chris gets lucky, he will be left with chicken scratch for chips. As the turn comes to 5, that creates some chop outs for these players.
A 3 would give both of them the wheel, and a jack would eliminate Norm.
Right now, the ace-queen still in Maria's going to see the
On to the river we go. Norm hoping to fade to stay alive, and he does. The river's an 8 of clubs. Norman is going to double up.
Norman is ace-queen for his pair of aces.
And just like that, Norman is going to put 676,000 in chips into his stack and get right back into this match. And perfect timing too, as blinds go up to 5 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante.
No, I said your famous juggler.
This time action will start with Norm. He folds over to Craig now. He's going to lay it down. Over to Chris.
I like to see it.
Chris looks down at Fred's favorite hand,
Yes.
King Queen offsuit,
Mom and Dad.
and he looks like he's going to come in for a raise, makes it 25,000.
And right next to him, Thomas wakes up with pocket 7s, and there you go. They're all in the middle.
He's going to put the rest of his stack in, and that's fairly standard for his situation.
And John Mahalik, we just saw, has pocket aces.
I saw 38 up in. What was I in? I'm all in.
And he is going to go all in. No need messing around here.
On now.
Over to Roger now.
In from the 3 seat. Over to Roger now on the 4. Big hand here.
Okay, that trick's getting a little old, Roger.
Alan folds over to Cruz.
Cruise missile.
You know, Cruz looks like he's going to fold, but I guarantee you he wants to call. He loves action.
But 5-3 offsuit isn't even going to be good enough for Cruz.
Now fold. So, with that fold.
Action folded around back to Chris Wagner now, and he's going to get out of the way. So it's Thomas and his pocket 7s against John's pocket aces.
2 seat.
And Tom is going to be at risk here with his tournament life on the line, and he is way behind.
Seat. He's ahead in the hand with 2
7, baby.
aces.
Yeah, I know, I'm scared.
Tom hoping to get lucky and find a 7 on the board. John obviously hoping that doesn't happen. Here comes the flop. Wow, ace, 6-5, rainbow. Top set should do it.
Tom has a few outs for a runner straight or quads. I mean, honestly, that's not very likely statistically speaking, but I've seen crazy things happen at this final table, so I wouldn't be entirely shocked.
Touche, my friend. On to the turn we go. It is a king of hearts, and that is going to do it. Thomas Montoya is going to end up leaving us in 7th place tonight, and John Mahalik is going to be the man who eliminates him as they shake hands. I thought he played a great game, just couldn't get a lot of traction. You can see he's disappointed.
So far, this final table has been tailor-made for TV. Come back for more excitement from Route 66 Casino Hotel in Albuquerque, New Mexico when we come back.
Welcome back here to Albuquerque, New Mexico in the Route 66 Casino Hotel. Maria and Fred will send it back to you and the final table action.
We've got Roger still holding strong in the top spot, but now we have 2 new short stacks at the table. Chris Wagner with just 129,000 and Cruz Baca, the shortest, at 79,000.
Cruz with only 8 big blinds left in his stack. He's pretty much got one move right now. Blinds continue at 5 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. John Mahalik, fresh off pocket aces and eliminating Thomas Montoya, is going to open the pot with ace-queen offsuit. Roger looks down at 6-10. Into the muck they go. Over to Alan Kessler. He's going to fold and clean his nails. Cruz Baca is going to lay it down. Over to Norman. 8 jack of clubs is his holding. Kids today just don't respect the big cards. They'll play anything.
No, and Norman wants to get involved here with Jack 8 of clubs in position.
And I'm sure that's why Norman made the call. He doesn't care what his cards are. He cares about the position. But Chris Wagner wakes up with ace king, and he's going to go all in, and John is going to isolate and go all in on top of him.
That's going to get rid of Norm, so it's going to be heads up with Chris's tournament life on the line, but he is ahead with ace king to John's ace queen.
Well, as we've seen at this final table, that doesn't matter. Chris hoping to fade the queen and double up.
Jack 8 suited. Jack 8. Excuse me, guys. Ouch. Suited.
Okay, once again.
This is again just kind of a cooler, very standard situation for both of the stack sizes involved. And the flop is deuce 8 king with 2 clubs. Chris is going to continue his lead, pairing his king. And John's going to need to hit some runner outs in order to take this hand away from him.
Needs runner, straight, Broadway.
He's going to need 2 money cards.
The turn brings a 9 of clubs.
And that was one of John's backdoor possibilities. Now any club will win him the hand and eliminate Chris.
A club and only a club is what John is looking for. Otherwise, Chris will double up. Here comes the river.
John looking for a club. Let's go ahead and see the river card, please.
Well, he could breathe a sigh of relief as the river is the king, and Chris has improved to trip kings, doubling up in the process.
And look at the intensity on Chris Wagner's face here. You think this championship means something to these players?
It looked like he was holding his breath after that turn came. It's never easy.
It really is. An action continuing at 5 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante.
Button is on Craig.
Look at this, ace king. Everybody gets a turn with ace king tonight.
Just big hand after big hand at this final table. Lots of action.
Roger Martin under the gun with big slick. Let's see how he chooses to play. Makes a raise. Going to open it for 28,000.
28.
Now over to Alan Kessler.
Alan looks down at 8-7 suited, and that's not going to be good enough for him to play to a raise.
Cruz Baca was 6-4. He's going to fold. Now Norman's turn. Into the muck. Over to Craig Casino.
And Craig looks down at Jack 10 offsuit, and I think he wants to play.
He is going to make the call. Chris is going to fold. And so does John. So it'll be Roger and Craig going at it. And I think Craig is looking for a little revenge from Roger after not betting on the river before. And Roger took it down with ace high.
And I don't even mind Craig's flat here with Jack 10 because Roger has shown a betting tendency that can be very exploitive. And I think Craig wants to play against him in position.
I'm sure Craig may have picked up that tell you've been talking about. The flop comes Jack King 6. So both players catch a piece of this. Roger has the best. And he fires 30,000.
And if I were Craig here, I would just call. I don't really see any point in raising. At this point, you know Roger's going to keep betting into you. So if you do have the best hand, you don't want him to fold a worse hand. And you don't really want to put yourself in a sticky situation if you happen to raise here and get re-raised by Roger.
80.
It's a raise.
Well, that's exactly what just happened. Craig raised it to 80. Roger quickly goes all in.
And now I'm afraid that Craig might just look him up, but you have to remember, Roger hasn't shown this kind of aggression before. He's only called raises. He hasn't re-raised people much at all himself. And so if I were Craig, I would fold.
Trying to put an extra 20 in there.
Just to show us.
And that's exactly what he does. And he's going to have to lick his wounds and wait for the next time to go after Roger.
Nice hand.
If Craig had just called on the flop, he could have seen a turn card, and you never know how that may have changed things.
Maria, back in 2003 when the poker boom just exploded and everybody started playing the game, one of the first names we learned about was Doyle Brunson. Back in 03 when a man named Moneymaker won the biggest poker event on the planet, a man nicknamed Texas Dolly was already a legend with over 50 years in the game. We brought Doyle onto our show to tell his stories from his points of view, and it is amazing. Here is Doyle Brunson with A Poker Life, presented by Ace Play Poker.
Okay, there was a game downtown that was a larger game than the ones on Exchange Avenue. And the rake, where they took money out of the pot, wasn't as severe. At Exchange Avenue, they took an excessive amount of the pot out of every time, as they do in the casinos today sometimes. But the game downtown was businessmen and hotel owners and so forth, and they congregated there and played a more legitimate style of poker, and the money was bigger, and competition was a little better too, but again, I was still a little bit ahead of everybody in particularly the Hold'em. And so I became successful there right away, and I played there a couple of years.
Gotta love Doyle Brunson, and he is a good storyteller. More poker when we come back from Route 66 Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Welcome back, everybody, here to the HPT, coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico in the Route 66 Casino Hotel. It's time to get back to the final table poker action.
We're down to 7 players here at this final table, and Roger Martin is slowly pulling away with the chip lead, now almost at the 1 million chip mark. The short stack is still Cruz Baca with just 8 blinds.
Cruz has been on the bottom of that chip count for a while, but I tell you, he's got the game to get out of it pretty quick as well. Blinds continue at 5 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante, and Cruz looks down at ace-7 offsuit.
With 8 big blinds, this is definitely a jam. He goes all in with ace-7. It's the right thing to do. See if anybody has a hand they could call him with.
Norman doesn't. Craig says no. Over to Chris now. Not going to play. John quickly
It doesn't
folds.
feel like it come hither to me.
Roger now with 8-10 of spades.
60 something.
61,000 is the all-in raised total.
This should be a fold. He doesn't really have much in there, being the small blind. 10-8's not that great of a hand.
Raj says no.
Alan's got Jack Deuce.
Yikes.
Alan says yikes, is what he said.
And is Alan thinking, I'm in the big blind, not much more to call? I got suited cards.
He's definitely doing the math. It's pretty close with Jack Deuce.
Audience is not allowed to ask for the clock.
I'm going to call.
Alan makes the call with suited Jack Deuce. Did the math make him do it? Did the cards make him do it? You tell me.
Yeah, being in the big blind, I think he can imagine he's pretty live with his cards, so he's going to go ahead and try to score a knockout here.
It's too early. We ain't going home yet.
Cruz Baca's tournament life on the line. Alan, plenty of chips behind. He's not in any danger if he weren't to win this hand. Here comes the flop.
The flop is King 9-8, couple of clubs. Cruz is still ahead with ace high, and he also does have the 7 of clubs in his hand.
Alan hoping to find a jack or a deuce on the Turner River to turn this into a 6-handed game.
The 9 of clubs is not going to do it, and now Alan is down to a non-club jack or a deuce on the river in order to knock out Cruz.
Alan is looking for any jack, any deuce here.
That's not a club.
That's not a club.
Can Alan get lucky like pretty much everybody else at this final table has tonight? The river is a jack of clubs. It hits Alan's card, but unfortunately it's a club giving Cruz the flush, and he is going to double up.
Carrying Mr. Kessler, but flushing the Cruz.
And Alan, the pro player, stoic as always. Just a matter of time for a player like Alan before he makes his push. This time action will start with Chris Wagner, ace deuce into the muck. John's going to fold. Back to Roger Martin. I'm going to start calling the clock on Roger. Over to Alan now. He folds. Back to Cruz.
That close.
Cruz looks down at 5-3 of hearts on the button. And he's going to let that go. I think he wants to hang on to his chips for a little longer.
Norman has ace-4. He's in the small blind, no action in front of him, so he's going to raise it up into the random hand of Craig Casino's big blind. Craig with 6-7 is going to go all in here.
Strong move by Craig. He definitely has enough fold equity here, so I think he's just hoping Norm can't call him.
Well, Norm is going to get a count here. It's 187,000 for Norm to call. What do you think, Maria? Can you pull the trigger on that kind of decision?
It's a very, very close decision. I think it really depends on what his history with Craig is and how wide he thinks Craig is going to be 3-bet shoving here with his stack size. And Norm does call, and he's going to see that he's ahead, but Craig does have live cards.
Well, Craig Casino's tournament life is on the line. He is going to need to hit a 6 or a 7 or find a board texture that'll help those cards to try to stay alive.
Mr. Casino's 7 of clubs.
Craig looks down at his beautiful grandchildren, uses them for luck at the poker table.
The year I was born.
This is very similar to the last song.
And the flop is 8-6-9, giving Craig the world here. He's flopped a pair of 6s and an open-ended straight draw. Norm's looking in bad shape now to knock him out.
Craig kisses the grandkids and thanks them for the luck. Now he's just got to hope it holds. Here comes the turn.
Wouldn't surprise me, but I'm hoping.
Turn card, please. Turn card.
The turn is the Queen of Diamonds. Doesn't really change anything. Craig's still ahead. Norm is looking for an ace on the river and an ace only to knock out Craig.
Craig hoping for a full double up here. Get back in this match. The river is a 5 of diamonds, and Craig Casino is going to double up.
Nice hand, Craig.
Casino on the end.
And just like that, Craig Casino is going to put almost a $500,000 in chips in front of him. Kiss those grandkids again, my friend. You're back in this.
So far, there's been a lot of all-ins and not a whole lot of knockouts. Come back to find out who's going to become our next HPT champion.
Welcome back to Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Route 66 Casino Hotel. She's Maria Ho. I'm Fred Bevel. We got quite a final table developing. Let's take a look at the updated chip count.
And Roger is still steadily increasing his chip lead. You could see he's over the 1 million mark now, with Norman behind him with 423,000. Chris Wagner and Cruz Baca are short stacks with 12 and 10 big blinds respectively.
Both Cruz and Chris looking for a hand and looking for a spot. Blinds moving up now. They are 6 and 12,000 with a 1,000 chip ante.
Actions on Norman. He's going to look down at 9-7. Probably going to let that go. Craig also folds behind him.
Chris is going to fold. Over to John. He's going to fold. Over to Roger. Jolly old Roger. Over $1 million in chips.
With the chip lead, I'm sure he's going to open this hand on the button.
Why wouldn't he?
And Roger is going to surprise us yet again by just limping on the button with this hand.
Allen is going to fold. Over to Cruz now in the big blind.
Did you eat some bad fish for dinner?
Pocket threes. He is not going to check his option. You want to double or nothing on that drink? Too late.
Cruz goes all in with his short stack, which is definitely the correct thing to do here. I don't see why Roger would just limp and then decide to call.
But that's exactly what he does, Miss Maria Ho, and he's going to table Queen 9 and see that he's got 2 live cards.
Do you have an extra 12 in there?
I can definitely see if Roger had opened this pot why he would call Cruz's all in, but when Roger just limps and he doesn't have that many chips invested, it's kind of interesting the way that this hand panned out, but oh well.
Cruz Baca's tournament life is on the line, hoping those threes will hold up. Here comes the flop.
The flop is 9, Jack, 5, 2 diamonds, and ooh, Roger has outflopped Cruz here, hitting middle pair.
Roger is running good, no doubt about it. Cruz is going to need to find one of the 2 threes left in this deck to suck out and stay alive. And look at that! A 3 on the turn is exactly the card he needs.
This has just been an insane final table of runouts.
The river is insignificant as the turned set is going to be the winner. And just like that, Cruz Baca goes from out the door to doubling up.
I need Cruz to teach me how to turn those sets. I've gotten it in behind before, and I could have used that.
You got to read more poker books to hit sets like that. Well, Maria, this has certainly been a fun final table to watch. To quote you earlier, there's been a lot of all-ins Not a lot of knockouts. The board has been very kind to the short stacks. What's your professional take on the play so far at this final table?
Well, I knew with this specific group of players, everybody was going to come out firing, and that's exactly what they did. And there were all-ins after all-ins, but then miracle card after miracle card. So right now, with 7 players still left, it's really anybody's game.
It really is, and you'll have to find out who the last player standing is next time on the HPT. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit under the bright lights like these players and play on the global stage of the HPT? Well, log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. For Maria Ho and James Larson, I'm Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time on the HPT.